Everyone, so today this video is going to be kind of a spin-off of my last video where I showed you my 2023 TBR and I told you all my reading goals. This is an extension of that video because I'm going to show you all the books that I read in the month of January, but I'm also going to talk about my channel updates and things because this channel is probably just going to be changing a lot. So when I started YouTube in 2014, I want to say, I posted kind of whatever. I posted fun vlogs, I posted going to the theater, stuff like that. And then I went to college and I was a theater major, so I posted backstage vlogs. And then when I got to my final college and I was an ed major, I literally made my teaching content, being a teacher, my entire personality, my entire lifestyle. And now that I am a teacher, it is super important for me to separate being a teacher and being a human being. So I haven't really been vlogging that much of my teacher life, and I've actually changed my channel name to The Life and Times of Lily. You're still gonna get some teacher content, but I'm getting married, so I want to post wedding vlogs, stuff like that, lifestyle vlogs. And then I'm taking up this challenge of reading a lot of books this year, so I want to kind of vlog that journey and vlog a monthly what I read and what I want to read. So that's where this channel is heading: lifestyle, books, stuff like that, just because being a teacher, especially the first year, is a lot. I'm feeling very overwhelmed and very burnt out, and I don't want to vlog about it because having to edit that and stuff, it just physically burns me out and I don't want to do it. So I want to start filming videos of things that I enjoy outside of being a teacher, because yes, I love my job, but there are just a lot of things that are really hard about it. But reading is really been big stress relief for me the month of January. So I'm gonna talk about all the books I read this month. There are 4 that I will not be able to show you, and they're all the children's books that I read this month because I either got them at my school library or they were in my library and they're in my classroom library, so I don't have them with me. But I'm gonna start from the beginning, from the first book I read this month, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I kind of went over this book in my last video, but if you're not familiar, it is about this girl named Kaya, and she is from the Marsh in North Carolina, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and she grew up there her whole life, and she went through she had a really difficult childhood full of abuse and people leaving her, and it's really a story of surviving on your own. And also she gets framed for doing this murder, and there's just a lot that goes on. People really are prejudiced toward her, and so this guy gets murdered and they automatically just assume she did it. And so it's a really good book. It really kept me engaged. I read it in 2 days. This was a 5-star read for sure. Next book I read, this is the craziest book I've ever read in my entire life. I'm just gonna do the children's books at the end. This is the second adult book I read, and it is the craziest book I've ever read. I still think about it to this day. I read it in 2 days, and it is Verity by Colleen Hoover. this book is so messed up on so many levels, but I did give it 5 stars because it really kept me reading and kept me engaged the whole time. Basically, it is about this girl named Lowen, and she is an author, and she gets called by this man who is named Jeremy Crawford, and his wife, Verity Crawford, was in a car accident. She's in a coma, and she's not able to finish her really like world-renowned book series, so he wants Lowen to finish writing it. And she like moves into their house, looks at all the manuscripts, and she finds a manuscript for Verity's autobiography, and it reveals a lot of dark things. And I don't want to give too much away, but holy crap, like, this is the first Colleen Hoover book I've read, and it was a lot to take in. So, right, the next book I read this in a day, is The Tattooist of Auschwitz. We had a snow day. I just read this the whole day. So obviously it's a Holocaust story, and it is about, what is the guy's name? Lally, and he is in Auschwitz, and he gets the job of being the tattooist that puts the numbers on the Jewish people. And he really hates that job because he feels like he's defacing people and getting rid of their like dignity. But then he meets this woman, I forgot her name too, Gita. He meets this lady named Gita, and they have like a really cute relationship going on, and it really is graphic about the struggles of living in Auschwitz and all the things that you witness from being a prisoner there. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 because it was really short. It left me wanting more. There are 2 other books in this series. It's a trilogy, so I might read the other ones some other time. I don't know, but 4 out of 5. It was a good historical fiction read, and I do recommend it. Early Departures by Justin A. Reynolds. I tried to listen to this on audiobook last year, and I just didn't finish it, and it was from the library, so it got returned. But I read, and like all of these, I kind of did a mix of reading and audiobook, except one I exclusively did audiobook for. But this one I did both, and this was my longest read this month. It is like 470 pages, so it's almost 500 pages. And it is about these 2 friends, Jamal and Quincy, and Quincy dies, and Jamal is like devastated because they used to be friends. They had a fight the night that he died, so then they weren't friends anymore, and he's really broken up about it. And so Jamal becomes really close with Quincy's mom, and a doctor tells them that they have the chance to reanimate Quincy for a month and get to say goodbye to him the proper way. So they go ahead and they do it, and it's just really like a beautiful story about friendship, grief, and like living your life to the fullest. And I gave this did I give it a 3 or I think it's like a 3.5 star for me, because there were some parts that like really dragged for me, but altogether this is a really good story. I do recommend it. It just like wasn't as good as like Where the Crawdads Sing or Verity for me, but yeah. Next book is, okay, my fiance bought me this book in 2020, I want to say, and it's his like favorite book. He would talk about it all the time, and he's like, I really want you to read that this year. So I did. The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. I was one of the people that did not read this in high school, so I had never read this book, and it was a really hard read. So this one I did listen to the audiobook, and the guy that was reading it did such a good job. It kept me engaged the whole time. I finished this in like 4 days, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. If you're not familiar with this book, it is about a boy named Amir, and he lives in Afghanistan. At the start, like, it talks about him from when he was a kid in the 60s till like 2001 as an adult, and it just talks about like the struggles of growing up in Afghanistan when the Taliban takes over. And it's just a really intense and really tragically beautiful story, and because of that, I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was really well done and I loved it. Really close to finishing, so I'm gonna include it because it is January 29th right now, and so it'll still be a January read. This is the last book in the Women Are Magic poetry series by Amanda Lovelace. So this is The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one, and I just love Amanda Lovelace. I think she's my favorite poetry writer. She just is amazing. I love reading her work. So, and I have 4 children's books that I read. The first 2 were the last 2 books in the Lemonade War series. So I read Candy Smash and I read Magic Trap, and Candy Smash is Valentine's Day themed. So they're like trying to figure out who is putting these personalized candy hearts in their desk. So the sister, Jessie, she like is trying to investigate that so she can get a really good story for the school newspaper. And then the Magic Trap, they're putting on a magic show in their backyard, and their dad comes back, and it's just, yeah, those were both 3-star reads for me because I did think that the first 2 books in the series were my favorite. I did like Candy Smash. I did really enjoy that one. Magic Trap kind of dragged on, so yeah. The next one I read was Crenshaw by Christina Applegate. I like this author a lot. She wrote The One and Only Ivan and The One and Only Bob. So I wanted to check out more of her books so that I can see if I want them for my classroom library. So I got it from my school library. And it's about this little boy, and he's in a family that like they're really struggling for money. They're poor, and they live in their car for a little bit. They're moving out of their house because they get evicted. Like, it's really sad. And the way that he escapes like all his problems is imagining his imaginary friend who is a cat named Crenshaw. And Crenshaw kind of gives him tips like, hey, you should enter this contest and for like your dog, and maybe the dog will win you money and you could like pay off your bank taxes and stuff. So it was a good story, but it wasn't as good as like her other books. So I did rate it a 3 out of 5. And then the other one I read was also by Christine Applegate, and it was The Wish Tree, and I loved The Wish Tree. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's from the perspective of a tree, and basically this tree is a wish tree. So every year on like May Day, people put their wishes on this tree, and then the tree is trying, like with the animal friends and stuff, trying to grant these wishes. And there's a lady in the neighborhood that wants to chop the tree down, and these kids are protesting against it. It's a really good book. I really liked that it was from the perspective of a tree, and I think that is a book that I will want to buy for my classroom library because it is truly beautiful and I loved it. So that is all the books I read in January. My February TBR is all romances because it is the month of love and Valentine's Day. So I'm starting my February TBR with The Wedding by Nicholas Sparks. I just want to read a book about a wedding because I'm getting married. So that is the first book I plan on reading. I plan on reading the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy and a couple more that I can't wait to tell you about. So I will see you next month and maybe soon for like another vlog type video. So thank you so much for watching and stay beautiful. Bye.